Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. I hope everybody had a good New Year so far, and I just wanted to extend my best wishes to the citizens of Falls Church, my fellow council members, city staff as well, and guests of the city of Falls Church as well. Ms. Bischoff, you would go ahead and call the roll, please.
Ms. Berry.
Here.
Ms. Gardner. Ms. Gardner is absent. Mr. Kalin. Mr. Kalin is absent. Mr. Pepe.
Here.
Mr. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Mayor Baruch.
Here.
Thank you, Council.
And we did not have any special meetings during the course of the holidays. If I can get a motion to adopt the meeting agenda, please.
Move to adopt the meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. If I can get a second.
Second.
Ms. Berry on the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The agenda is adopted. We have one proclamation today, and I believe Mr. Karen Sharp is going to be receiving that. But before that happens, I've asked Vice Mayor Snyder to go ahead and read the proclamation.
Whereas the future course of our nation rests on the shoulders of its youth, and educated, confident, and nurtured children will give rise to a stronger nation. And whereas mentoring is a proven, effective strategy matching a caring, responsible adult with a student to provide guidance, confidence, stability, and direction for children. And whereas research has shown that mentoring has a definitive impact on young people by increasing attendance at school, improving rates of high school graduation and college attendance, and decreasing involvement with drugs, alcohol, and violent behaviors. And whereas the City of Falls Church has established the 1-2-1 mentoring program in partnership with Northern Virginia Family Service in order to offer its youth the benefits of a mentor. And whereas the establishment of a National Mentoring Month will emphasize the importance of mentoring and recognize with praise and gratitude the many Americans already involved in mentoring. And whereas the celebration of National Mentoring Month will, above all, encourage more people to volunteer as mentors to the benefit of our city's children.
Thank you. Now, therefore, I, Nader Baruch, the Mayor of the City of Falls Church, Virginia, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2012 as National Mentoring Month in the City of Falls Church and urge all citizens to volunteer as mentors and promote awareness, involvement, and support for the mentoring of our youth. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Falls Church to be affixed this 9th day of January 2012. Mr. Sharp.
Thank you so much, Mayor, Vice Mayor Snyder, members of the City Council. You always do a wonderful job on the proclamation. What you have in it says a great deal about the value of mentoring. I just want to express my thanks for the privilege of having been a part of the Partnership for Youth since 1998, the local partner for the National Mentoring Partnership. It's a cooperative program between local governments involving cooperation between Fairfax County and the City of Falls Church, cities of Fairfax and the town of Herndon, the town of Vienna. All of those local jurisdictions are involved. Actually, as a national partner, the Partnership for Youth is representing all of Northern Virginia, Loudoun County, Arlington, and Fairfax Falls Church as well. Let me mention a few who are associated with the program locally. You mentioned the 1-2-1 mentoring, and the coordinator for 1-2-1 is here this evening, Jessica Reyes. She's with Northern Virginia Family Service, as you indicated in the proclamation. Leslyn Barrow is also with me tonight. She's a member of our Housing and Human Services staff. There's also a very strong committee that stands behind this 1-2-1 mentoring effort called the Alliance for Youth, and it involves staff members from the schools, from the Community Services Board, from Housing and Human Services, from Northern Virginia Family Service, and it meets very frequently. It has been very successful in raising awareness in the community, and that awareness, I think, is bearing fruit in the fact that we have a rotating program every quarter. It's renewed at the community center. There are as many as 25 middle schoolers who are involved in the program at any one time. We currently have a new group that is coming into this quarter that we're entering, and this is a very, very thoroughgoing program. Jessica is one who will actually go to the homes of the individual students, meet with them, learn of their background and their willingness to participate. This is all entirely voluntary on the part of the student, on the part of the mentor, and on the part of the parents. And they begin in middle school, meeting on Thursday late in the afternoon with their mentors on a regular basis. But now, because we've had this program operating for at least a year, we now have an alumni who have moved up into the high school area, and they're beginning to work with the mentors, same mentor that they've had in middle school, but now they don't have to continue to meet at the community center anymore. They can now meet at any point in the community that the mentor and the youngster agree to, and it's just a wonderful thing that the city and the schools have supported and continued throughout this recessionary time, recognizing that mentoring really works, and it's not something that can be just put aside because we have some financial difficulties. So thank you very much for the support that you've given to it throughout this time. Thank you very much for the proclamation tonight.
Thank you very much to all of you for being here this evening and for all the work that you've done on the partnership and also with the mentoring program aspects of the partnership as well. Council, any questions, comments? Mr. Snyder?
Just to thank everyone involved, but before Kieran gets away, I just want to thank him for his so many years of service to this community and the welfare of the people. I don't know anyone who's more committed to the welfare of the public than Kieran Sharp. So thank you very much for being here and all you do. And thanks to the entire team, the staff and the volunteers and the mentors. Job well done. Thank you.
All right. Kieran, if you'd like to step
I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Earl Conklin, who is also here this evening, Director of Housing and Human Services, and formerly Director of Court Services. Now he's beginning a second program, just beginning this month, that is, of course, building on the success of the 121 program, but Earl has always had it in his heart for kids who are court involved. These are kids who are either at Aurora House, girls at Aurora House in our community, or they're otherwise involved with the juvenile court. And the mentoring program with them is just beginning this month.
Karen, I'd be remiss not to give you an opportunity to plug the program further. If citizens or visitors are interested in learning about the program, whether as a mentor or mentee, who should they contact, phone numbers, etc.?
Yes, there's a 121 mentoring description. That's, when I say 121, that's the numbers, 1-21. That's on the city's website. So if you look for that description on the website, you'll see contact information and a good description of the program. But I think Jessica is probably the best person to contact. If people want email, it's jreyes@nvfs.org.
Great. Thank you very much. And if you'd please join me and the rest of the council for a photo. Earl.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks. The next item on the agenda that we have is oath of office to new board and commission members. Ms. Michaud, do we have anybody here to take the oath of office? I'm not seeing any. Okay. We are on to receipt of public comments. I have one speaker slip for Creative Cauldron, Passport to the World Festival from Gina Kachechi.
Good evening. I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, as you know, my name is Gina Kachechi, and I live here in the Falls Church City on Van Buren Street. But tonight, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to address City Council in my role as President of the Board of Directors of Creative Cauldron. Creative Cauldron is a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization whose mission is to make the arts affordable and accessible to everyone. We provide educational opportunities in the performing and visual arts for adults and for children, and we also produce and present professional performances of live theater, music, and dance. Creative Cauldron manages and operates ArtSpace Falls Church, the little center for the arts in the little city, located at 410 South Maple Avenue in what is also known as the Pearson Square Building. We're one block past Pizzeria Orso. Starting this Saturday, January 14th, and continuing through March 4th, the Little City has your passport to the world through Creative Cauldron's Passport to the World Festival of Music, Dance, and Theater. Throughout the 8-week program, 21 different performances will be presented by artists representing the musical and cultural traditions from diverse regions of the globe. It's a visual and auditory feast that will give families an opportunity to make new friends and to participate in a fascinating world community. The professional ethnic performance troupes representing diverse music and dance traditions from Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America will perform on Saturdays and Sundays, and some Fridays, at Creative Cauldron at ArtSpace. In keeping with our mission, ticket prices range from $10 to $20. The Passport to the World Festival begins on the lush continent of Africa. Over the following 7 weeks, audiences will have a chance to come to Falls Church and be transported around the globe through music, dance, theater, and storytelling from Bulgaria, South America, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Italy, the South Pacific, Russia, Ireland, and Wales. With the help of a $3,500 grant from the Falls Church Economic Development Authority, Creative Cauldron is promoting the Passport to the World Festival to audiences throughout the Washington, D.C. area. This colorful and detailed brochure is in the mail to approximately 1,400 targeted households. A press release has gone out to all the area media outlets, and we anticipate good press coverage throughout the D.C. area. Of course, Creative Cauldron is promoting the festival using electronic and social media as well. The Passport to the World series has the potential to attract 1,000 patrons for performances, cultural demonstrations, and story events, and for dining before or after the festival events. In addition to the professional music, dance, and theater performances, Creative Cauldron is partnering with area restaurants to create co-promotional opportunities that encourage patrons to sample the rich ethnic cuisines featured at many of our best city-based restaurants. For more specific information about the Passport to the World Festival, please check our website, creativecauldron.org. The Passport to the World Festival is truly an opportunity to travel the world without ever leaving Falls Church. We hope to see each of you at Creative Cauldron at ArtSpace soon. Thank you very much.
And this looks like a wonderful event.
It is.
And those are all the speaker slips that I have for items that are not on the agenda. I do have 2 speaker slips for the Pearson Square item that we're going to take on. I'm happy to take those comments now or take them up when we take up that item. So please feel welcome to come forward now or when we take up that item. Okay. I'll hold those over until we take up that item. Are there any members of the public that wish to address any other items? Okay, we are on to the report of the city manager to council. Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor Baruch and members of council. I'll just start off by wishing the council and the community a happy new year. We're looking forward to a very productive and dynamic 2012. The only thing that I have to announce tonight is that the City of Falls Church will be hosting a town hall meeting with our General Assembly representatives on Saturday, January 14th at 10 a.m. at the Community Center. The General Assembly convenes this coming Wednesday on January 11th, and this meeting on Saturday, January 14th, will be an opportunity to ask questions of our representatives, Delegate Jim Scott, and our new state senator, Senator Richard Saslaw, just to get a preview of the upcoming session, ask questions, and make suggestions. As always, or for the past several years, Cindy Mestre will be our lead in terms of tracking issues of importance to the city. And if anyone in the public has questions about this town hall meeting, feel free to contact Cindy Mestre at cmester@fallschurchva.gov or 703-248-5042. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. Council, any questions or comments from Mr. Shields at this point? Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are on to business on the agenda, second readings of ordinances and other items requiring a public hearing. Ms. Pichelle, if you'd read the first item, please.
Council, the first item before you, TR 11-43 on second reading, resolution amending and reenacting Resolution 2004-30, as amended by Resolution 2007-14, Resolution 2008-17, and Resolution 2009-11, to approve special exception SE 04-0162 for mixed-use development at 400-412 South Maple Avenue, known as 500 South Maple Avenue, to Atlantic Realty Companies, Inc., and their successors, the developer.
Very much. Mr. Shields, is Mr. Fuller going to be providing the staff comments on this?
He is, and I'll ask Mr. Fuller to make the staff report. I just wanted to alert the council at the outset that council has at the dais, in terms of your public comments and letters from citizens, a letter that we received late last week from Lawson, Tarter, and Charvet that's responsive to a letter drafted by a representative of Falls Church Arts, Marty Meserve. And we've had discussions with the owner, Pearlmark, about this, as well as with Falls Church Arts. And so we want to reference this letter in the resolution, and we've been discussing with Mr. Danforth about ways to do that. But what I'd like to do is see if we could save that discussion to the end, just alert council to that, and that we'll propose a small amendment to the resolution to affect that. But first, if we could have a report from Gary Fuller, and just in terms of the progress of the application as it's gone through the process and been reviewed by the various boards and commissions. Mr. Fuller.
Thank you. This evening, we have before us an application for a special exception amendment. This is for Pearson Square. The applicant is indicated in the report, Pearlmark Real Estate Partners, and they're the owners of 410 South Maple Avenue, which is known as Pearson Square. They have a large tenant, Body Dynamics, an Arlington-based business that wants to lease approximately 9,700 square feet of the available vacant first floor commercial space at Pearson Square. The owner is applying for this special exception to allow for that particular tenant and allow for service use to occupy approximately half of the residential building's first floor retail, restaurant, commercial space that's designated. Specifically, we're dealing with about 3,000 square feet of retail-only space in terms of the designation that we're alluding to in this resolution, or specifically addressing. And then secondly, the tenant is looking for lease terms that extend beyond the current maximum of 10 years for 20 years for their use and their investment in the property to build it out. On November 28th, you initiated formal review of this item and referred it to Planning Commission and several other boards and commissions for review and recommendations. They have reviewed this item, and all of the recommendations from the boards and commissions were positive in support of this application. They're referenced in your staff report from the Planning Commission, who acted on it on December 5th, the Economic Development Authority that acted on it on December 6th, the Falls Church Chamber of Commerce that acted on it on December 13th, and then you have numerous public comments. I believe there's 10 total that are attached in this staff report. And then you also had a letter from Creative Cauldron, which the city manager has alluded to, that the issues that were raised there have been addressed in a letter by the agent for the applicant that we're going to discuss briefly at the end in terms of verbiage that would include that in any motion action this evening. Just a few other, just another small editorial comment in the resolution on line 433 and 434. There's a strike through there. It's line 332 through 432 through 434. It reads, it lists two resolutions that were previously acted on as part of this application, and it is referencing the terms and conditions or the voluntary concessions that were associated with this. These have been unamended for the last two times we've amended this, and they're not being changed for this amendment. So there's a reference later that talks about the sort of the history relating to the resolution, but there's no reason to list the last three references to resolutions that have left these terms unchanged. They're in attachment 21 for reference. So anyway, it talks about that in number 1, starting at line 430. There's no need to have those most recent references because that, like I said, is unchanged. So that was a small editorial change in the resolution from when you saw it on November 28th. So at this time, staff is recommending approval of this resolution this evening, and the applicant is here, and I think the applicant's agent as well had a few brief comments, and then we'll address the letter that the city manager had addressed for the final motion purposes. Thank you.
Mr. Fuller, why don't we hear from the applicant's agent?
Okay.
If they'd like to say a few words.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Ben Danforth on behalf of the property owner. I'm going to keep my comments brief since you've heard about this application a couple times before at the joint work session as well as the first reading. Since we were last before you in December, we have gone out and we've met with the different advisory groups, and as you've heard, they're all in support of the application. And we've also been working on addressing some of the comments that have come up throughout the public hearing process, and the steps that have been taken to address those comments are reflected in the letter that has been submitted. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have about that letter. And in closing, I'd just like to say that the property owner is excited about having Body Dynamics come to the site and into the Pearson Square building, and the property owner feels like Body Dynamics will be a great addition and will really enliven the ground floor of the building. And Jennifer Gamboa, who's one of the co-owners of Body Dynamics, is here this evening, and she has a few comments to make as well.
Bill?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Mostly on behalf of my staff and my husband, we just want to say thank you again for helping us to walk through this process. We have really appreciated the support of the variety of the different planning commissions and other community citizens who were examining whether or not we were appropriate for coming into this space and coming into the Falls Church City. So thank you all very much. We are very appreciative of the support of the community.
Thank you. Council, any questions at this point? And then we can also turn to the letter that was referenced earlier. Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Mayor, I first want to make a disclosure. My wife is the executive director of the Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy. I think I've checked with the city attorney on this previously, and that it's acceptable for me to participate in the debate and the vote. Is that right, Mr. Foster?
That's correct, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you very much.
Council member questions? Okay, Mr. Shields, why don't we turn to the reference letter?
The letter received late last week proposes the following actions by the owner, Pearlmark. Number 1 is some corridor improvements that would reduce disturbances for productions at Creative Cauldron. This was referenced in a letter from Creative Cauldron received back in November. And so that's in process, and I think we'll hear from Creative Cauldron in terms of the details of these and their response to those during the public comment period. There was an issue about parking. This is item 2. And the owner has implemented a new policy that requires residents of the building to have a residential parking sticker. And the purpose of that is to make it easier to see if there's a resident that's parking in the commercial parking spaces. And that's helpful for the performance of all the commercial space on the first floor of the building and at the tax analyst building. And so that is an improvement. Parking signage to reduce confusion about where residents park and where visitors to the various businesses on the first floor should park. That's referenced in the letter. And then fourth, the owner offers financial support for the Creative Cauldron. And what they've offered is a corporate sponsorship for the Creative Cauldron in the amount of $5,000 per year for 5 years, for a total of a $25,000 contribution over that 5-year period. And so those are the key items that are referenced in the letter. In terms of the resolution itself, we've spoken with Mr. Danforth about this just in the hallway prior to the meeting, and have a proposed amendment to the resolution. And let me ask Mr. Foster if he could speak to that. If you,
Yes, in discussions prior to this evening's meeting with the city manager as well as Mr. Fuller and the applicant, I think one way that I would recommend approaching this is to simply amend the resolution that's in your packet at line 508 to add a paragraph 9 that would state, quote, the letter dated January 5th, 2012 from Lawson, Tartar, and Charvet to Wyatt Shields, city manager, and the actions proposed by owner in that letter are incorporated herein and expressly made a part hereof.
Council, any questions on that? Mr. Shields, can you again reference where the response letter is in our packets? Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find it. Yes, I see it. Council, any other questions on that? Okay, if I can get, unless there's any other questions or comments by council at this point, I would like to request the motion and then we can open it up for public comment.
Mr. Mayor, I propose to move approval of TR 11-43 as amended.
Thank you. If I can get a second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, I want to go ahead and open this up to public comment. I have 2 speaker slips. The first speaker slip I have is from Mr. Eric Pelton. Mr. Pelton, if you'd come forward and state your name and your address, and you've got 3 minutes. And if you're representing an organization, please state what that organization is.
Thank you. My name is Eric Pelton, E-R-I-K-P-E-L-T-O-N, of 303 North Oak Street in the City of Falls Church. I'm here today on behalf of the Falls Church Chamber of Commerce. First, I want to say good evening and thank you to the mayor and the vice mayor and the council for the opportunity to speak on this matter tonight before you. The Falls Church Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors fully supports the special exception requested for Pearson Square in order to enable Body Dynamics to lease space on the ground floor of the building. As detailed in our letter of December 13th, which I know is a part of the packet of materials, we support the special exception for a variety of reasons. Body Dynamics is a successful and award-winning business. Body Dynamics would enhance the overall character of the City of Falls Church. Body Dynamics has explicitly chosen Falls Church as its preferred site for its new business home. Body Dynamics would expose Falls Church to its customers from around the region, and inevitably some of those customers will become patrons of the many wonderful and successful establishments, restaurants, cultural establishments, and other businesses in the City of Falls Church. So in summary, the Chamber fully supports the special exception to allow Body Dynamics, and we look forward to welcoming them to our community in the near future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pelton. The next speaker slip I have is from Ms. Marty Meserve. Ms. Meserve.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Marty Meserve. I live at 708 Berry Street. I'm here tonight on behalf of Creative Cauldron. Laura Hull, the founder and producing director, and Gina Cachechi, the board president, are also in the chambers. I'd like to tell you that we are thrilled to welcome Body Dynamics as a fellow tenant in Pearson Square and look forward to the enriched economic environment they will help create. We have always been supportive of their coming to the city and recommend that the application move forward tonight. We'd also like to thank the management of Pearson Square and Pearlmark Real Estate Partners for their efforts to address the parking and noise issues in the building. And the increase in the corporate sponsorship of Creative Cauldron to $5,000 annually with a firm commitment for 5 years is very much appreciated and will help us fulfill our mission of bringing the arts and arts education to all ages. We encourage you to incorporate the recent letter from the applicant in the final motion, as Councilmember Berry has already indicated. Thank you all for listening to Creative Cauldron's concerns and for finding ways to support our efforts to create a thriving cultural community in Falls Church. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty. Those are all the speaker slips I have. Are there any other members of the public who wish to address council on this item? Okay, not seeing any, I'm going to go ahead and close this item up for public comment. Council, I open it up for any council comments before we go ahead and take the vote on this, or any questions that you may have outstanding before the vote. Lawrence.
A quick question for the city manager. With this new agreement, does it still allow for parking enforcement to be able to access the garage and for city stickers of residents who are in there, which I believe some of the other locations do?
It does not address that particular issue. And so we have been in discussions in the past with the prior owner of Pearson Square and have had difficulty of enforcing the decals where we can have our parking enforcement officer go into the parking garage just to check on the status of decals in the vehicles, and that is not addressed in this language.
Mr. Webb?
Just a quick follow-up. I think if we're not able to add that into this particular language, I think for future and all other developments that we need to work hard to add that into that, because it is a source of revenue for the city that we need to make sure that we have that access to these new developments that are potentially coming online here in the near future.
Other council members? I actually did want to follow up on the point that Mr. Webb raised. I would just encourage the applicant to work with city staff on that issue. I know that there's concerns on both sides, but I can give you certainly my take on the issue that's being discussed about having the city have the ability to look at whether the city stickers are on there. And that's really the way that the city enforces to make sure that property taxes are being paid on vehicles. And it's one way, as we've discussed in our budget process, which was going to be discussed in the next coming months, is it equalizes some of the taxes that our citizens face. That's not based solely on real estate, because generally our community does have cars, and that's one way where we can create some equity. And not having access to the parking lots, to do that does create some negative incentives. So I encourage you, it's not related to this topic, but to work with the city to allow that to happen in a positive way. And I think speaking to some of the city staff and our elected officials, that's really the goal that we were getting to. It's an item that we're likely to discuss again at our budget time, so I would encourage you to continue to work on that. And I also wanted to thank the applicant on reaching some consensus around some of the issues that came in during the SE process. And thank you to staff as well for working through those issues as well. I know that took time and effort in part during the holiday season. So thanks to everybody for reaching what I think is good compromise on some of those items. Mr. Snyder?
Thank you. I wish everyone had an opportunity to go through the packet that's in front of us today that outlines what Body Dynamics is and what it does and what it plans to do. It's really a very progressive, very exciting business, and we're very pleased to have them in the city. They also do a lot with the arts, as I understand it, and there's a very nice synergy with Creative Cauldron, and that's wonderful as well. I want to thank the owner of the building for being flexible on some things, so that's appreciated. Finally, I think most important is that it will bring a lot of people into the city to take advantage of the service, and hopefully our other businesses, and it really brings some significant vibrance to that area. And so this is really a great win-win. I want to thank everybody involved. I want to thank city staff and Wyatt in particular for negotiating and helping to bring this forward, and all of our boards and commissions who have looked at this, and all of the many citizens who have commented all in favor of this proposal. So thank you.
Members? I'll just make one concluding comment. I'm not, as some of you may know, keen to repeated exceptions to an SE that's already an exception to the code. But I think overall, I think this is an exciting business coming in to the city, and I'm certainly going to be supportive of the request for the SE amendment. I think looking at it from an economic perspective, it makes sense. Looking at it for a use perspective, I think given the unique aspects of Body Dynamics and the SE is really tied to that business, makes sense. I think it's going to be a vibrant, given the amount of traffic that's going to be there, and also the synergy, as Mr. Snyder mentioned, with the arts. And I do really, looking at the literature of what Body Dynamics does, I think they're really on the cutting edge of what they do, and they seem to be doing it very well with very loyal customer base. So I was definitely impressed to see all those comments, and I think it's going to be a great asset to the community, and hopefully it'll have some spin-off to the arts community as well, given some of the client base as well. So I think there could be a lot of exciting things that happen with this new business, and hopefully this will pass, and that the business will be very successful in Falls Church. And my concluding request would be, let's get you here as soon as possible. So that's all I have to say this evening, and I'll definitely be supporting the request this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if I could just address the proposed change to the condition language.
Absolutely. That's the one the amendment that we were taking up the paragraph?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I just want to make sure there's no unintended consequences coming through, because the letter wasn't written in a way that's really meant to be incorporated into a resolution. So I was just thinking, my suggestion may be for the council to consider just listing the specific things in a new paragraph in the resolution that it wants to see happen, because the letter incorporates some background history and things that have been done. And so I haven't had a chance to talk to the zoning administrator to see exactly how we'd enforce the letter as it's written. So I don't want to get in a situation where the zoning administrator is not sure if certain things have been met, because the letter is not really written in a way that has specific standards for the way things are going to be done. So I just don't want to have an issue where we're going to get the certificate of occupancy for Body Dynamics and the zoning administrator is starting to say, well, has signage been put in that clearly identifies certain things, or because it's a kind of subjective standard if something's clear or not. So that's just my concern, and so I just offer that up as a suggestion. It may be clearer just to add a new paragraph to the resolution that says that the developer will do this, and then just list the specific things rather than incorporating the letter.
Why don't we do this? It sounds like perhaps the lawyers. I don't want to get into a debate between us and the rep on this. I thought that there had been some agreement between Mr. Foster and yourself on the language, but it seems like there may have not been. Why don't we take a short 2 or 3 minute break, no more than 5, see if we can come up with the language that's acceptable. We do have a motion right now that's proper and has been first and seconded, but I'm happy to, as long as my colleagues are up for it, take 5 minutes, let you all work through this, and then we can decide what we need to do, whether we're going to leave the motion as it is or have an amendment to a proper motion that's standing right now. If I can get a motion for a quick 5 minutes.
Move to adjourn for 5 minutes.
Okay, if I can get a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
You said recess, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Move to, go to recess, not adjourn.
Should I amend the amendment?
You said recess.
Kathy, pretend that didn't happen.
I didn't. I move to recess for a period of 5 minutes.
Thank you. If I can get a second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're in recess for 5 minutes. believe the parties were able to work out something at this point. Is that correct, Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Okay. Great. I'm going to see Ms. Berry's light. Ms. Berry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to withdraw the previous motion and replace it with the following language. The developer shall make a $5,000 contribution to Creative Cauldron by the end of the first quarter each year in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, as described in the letter from Lawson, Tartar, and Charvet to Wyatt Shields, City Manager, dated January 5th, 2012.
Thank you. If I can ask for unanimous consent, so unless there's any objections by council, that would be the new motion that we would be voting on.
To be clear for the record, I believe what Ms. Berry intended to say was to withdraw and replace the amendment, not the motion, and with that clarification.
I'd ask for unanimous consent on that. Okay. We've got it. So if we, unless there's any other comments by council members, we can go ahead and take the vote on it. Anything else, council? All right. Ms. Bischoff, you'd go ahead and call the roll, please.
This is to approve TR 11-43 with an amendment. Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mayor Burke?
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, everybody.
Council, the next item on your agenda is TO 11-23, ordinance to amend Chapter 6 Buildings, Chapter 14 Environment, create Chapter 33 Property Maintenance, and amend Chapter 48 Zoning to provide for a property maintenance code of Falls Church with civil penalties. This is before you on first reading.
Mr. Shields? I believe Mr. Snyder, are you going to be providing these?
I'm going to ask Mr. Snyder to provide the staff report. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, you have before you a proposed amendment to City Code to establish Chapter 33 Property Maintenance. This is an effort to consolidate existing sections from other codes, Chapter 6 Buildings, Chapter 14 Environment, Chapter 48 Zoning, to create a civil penalties schedule and approach to improving property that needs improvement in order to prevent blighted and unsightly conditions. We're recommending that the council adopt this ordinance on first reading and refer it to the Planning Commission, the AAB, and the Board of Zoning Appeals with a final second reading public hearing on February 13, 2012. The origin of this is to change the present situation where these kinds of violations are a misdemeanor and have a criminal penalty and also fines up to $2,500, and turn them into a civil penalty approach. This will aid us in enforcing the kinds of property maintenance problems that we hear about from citizens and we would like to address for the city and the council. Violations such as tall grass and weeds, abandoned vehicles presently are handled. We've added some additional items here in the language concerning heights of fences that needed improvement, and we think that the improvements to how we handle vehicles that presently are it's complicated to get rid of automobiles that are in disrepair will be improved. Also, sidewalks, driveways, and parking area maintenance standards are established, and prohibitions on exterior storage of trash, litter, debris, lawnmowers, and other kinds of yard equipment are mentioned. It'll also allow us to provide ticketing and civil penalties for maintenance of buildings, excessive peeling paint, and those kinds of things that presently we're not able to do. So after a good bit of discussion in previous work sessions with Commission, Planning Commission, and also the City Council, we recommend this to you on first reading to go forward to a public hearing on February 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions by council members? Ms. Berry.
Mr. Snyder, this is very comprehensive and readable. I appreciate it very much. The language contained herein and the scale of the fines that you are suggesting, this is consistent with neighboring jurisdictions?
It is. It's consistent also with what we've done recently on the environmental recycling requirements. So these fines are consistent. It's also consistent with the state building code, the $100 and $150 payments.
Other council members? Questions on this? I had some questions that are more of a technical nature, which I'm happy to talk to Mr. Foster offline and Mr. Snyder as need be. They're more definitional, and if we need to make any changes based on my discussions with staff, certainly I'll let them know. But I think this addresses some of the issues. I did want to ask Mr. Foster, is this consistent with authorizing state language and what we're allowed to do?
Yeah, it is consistent with state enabling authority. and I will work with you, Mr. Mayor, and the other members of council on any technical questions you have between first reading and second reading.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions by council members? I did have 2 speaker slips, so if I can get a motion, then we'll open it up for public comments, please.
Do you want to do that, Ron?
No, you're a motion machine tonight.
I tell you what. Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt TO 11-23 on a first reading and refer to the Planning Commission Architectural Advisory Board and the Board of Zoning Appeals for recommendations, schedule second reading and public hearing for February 13th, 2012, and advertise the same according to law.
Thank you. If I can get a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and open this up for public comment. I have 2 speaker slips. The first speaker slip I have is from a Stephen, and I'm sorry, Stephen, I could not read the last name.
Burnett, thank you.
Burnett, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Stephen Bruno, 113 West Marshall Street. I want to thank you for moving forward with this. This is something that's been very near and dear to my heart. We met here several months ago, and a number of emails and what I exchanged. And while my personal situation seems to have resolved itself, I truly support this as a guarantee that the kind of things that I was experiencing from my neighborhood will not continue or happen again. So, read it, support it completely. Thank you very much for taking it up.
Thank you, and thanks for raising this to our attention. I know that it's citizens like you that bring these matters to our attention, and based on our email exchanges and conversations, I'm glad that we were able to work with staff and bring this forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have one other speaker slip, and that's from Miss Marty Meserve.
Marty Meserve, 708 Berry Street. I hadn't intended to speak about this, but I was talking to Wyatt today and shared with him a story. My husband's office was closed between Christmas and New Year's, and that meant that he and I did a lot of walking throughout the city. And we also walked around the retail areas and, walked down the alleys, took shortcuts, and came away, I don't want to use too harsh a word, but we were shocked at some of the things we saw. With the debris, some of which was dangerous or unhealthy, that was piling up in the back of some of the retail spaces, and we commented that this was not what we thought Falls Church was all about and what should be permitted to continue. And I was actually going to write a letter to council mentioning some of our experiences, and then I found out that you in fact are dealing with this tonight. So I wanted to come forward and encourage you to move forward with this. I think it's important that we have some local tools of enforcement that our folks can use. I think that the city is proud of itself, and we need to show that in every way. And I think that cleaning up some of this would be a very, very good idea. So I had to share that story with you and congratulate you for moving forward with this. Thanks. Now I can go home and watch some football.
Thank you very much, Marty. And those are all the speaker slips I have. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address this item? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this up for public comment. And before we take a vote on this, council, any comments on this? Vice Mayor Snyder.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick question for the city attorney. Is there anything in this ordinance that raises constitutional issues or property rights issues, either under the Virginia Constitution or the U.S. Constitution?
Not that I've seen in my review, Mr. Snyder, no.
Members of council? I will be supporting this particular zoning ordinance change. It reminds me a little bit of one of the first items that I had brought before council, and that had to do with the graffiti ordinance. And really, I think what we're trying to get at is not legislate what property needs to look like, but essentially bare minimums that have to do with health and safety issues and general appearances and upkeep. And I think that's what we're trying to deal with is blight issues, that could come up, and this, again, reminds me of the graffiti ordinance that we put together, and we did wrestle some constitutional issues that were raised and whether it was permissible or not, and ultimately concluded that that resolution made sense, and I think certainly this makes sense as well, and I'll certainly be supporting it. And if there's any definitional issues, I'll certainly work with Mr. Foster and staff with that. Mr. Webb?
I will be supporting this as well. This just reminds me of the area in Virginia where I grew up at, where it was regular to see light and cars and things kind of sitting out in yards and things like that. So where they've even gotten into the game of making sure that these things aren't sitting and just bringing down property values within the town limits of where I grew up at. And I think it is definitely an important feature that the local government needs to make sure that these things are taken care of in a timely manner.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Other council members? I'm not seeing any. Ms. Bischoff, if you'd go ahead and call the vote.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mayor Baruch?
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
The next item before you is TR 12-01. This is a resolution appointing members of the Falls Church City Council to serve as representatives on the NVRC, NVTA, NVTC, NVWIB, and COG policy boards and committees as of January 1, 2012. This is a housekeeping matter, council, that I bring before you. We are asked by these different organizations to present this to them as of the first of the year.
And I think our new practice has been to try to get these in a formal resolution, so that's why you have it, because we're supposed to do this every year, as Ms. Bouchard
We put it in a
mentioned.
formal resolution, and it's, like I said, it's a housekeeping matter.
So, okay. Any comments on this, council? And since this is a resolution, I don't believe I need to open it up for public comment, but I'm going to, once we have a motion, just to see if any members of the public have any comments on this before we vote on it. If I can get a motion, please. Mr. Webb.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of TR 12-01.
If I can get a second.
Second.
It's Ms. Berry on the second. I'm going to open this item up for public comment. Don't have any speaker slips. Are there any members of the public that wish to address this resolution? Not seeing any, I'm going to go ahead and close this item for public comment. Council, any further comments before we take a vote? Not seeing any. Ms. Bouchard, if you'd go ahead and call the roll, please.
On resolution TR 12-01, Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Pepe? Yes. Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Webb? Yes. Mayor Baruch?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Council, the next item before you is a consent item. Mr. Shields, would you
I'll
like
speak to that. The consent item is authorization for the city manager to approve a change order to the contract with E.E. Lyons Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $66,782.84 for the construction of the Eden Center Water Main Modification Project. This change order is over the threshold which, per the city's procurement rules, requires city council approval. The total project now would go up to $279,903. The project is to improve water pressure at the Eden Center, at the commercial district there, by extending an additional water main to serve that area. The change orders relating to some VDOT approvals that were very difficult in terms of an access off of Route 7. So we've gone off of a different access off of Wilson Boulevard, and that's the reason for the change order.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. If I can get a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, move the consent item.
Mr. Webb? Do you move approval of the consent item? Approval of the...
Move approval of the consent item.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I can get a second.
Second.
That's Mr. Pepe on the second.
Mr. Pepe, thank you.
Ms. Shafi, go ahead and call the roll.
Ms. Berry? Yes. Mr. Pepe?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mayor Baruch?
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, I don't believe we've got any business not on the agenda. We're on to council member comments and requests. Council, any comments and requests? Mr. Pepe?
Well, I would say just one quick one. We've had 2 meetings now of the task force on the City Hall renovations, and it's moving along. As we know, there are lots of needs, and the question right now is sort of a staging question about how to prioritize and get everything on the table so we can put together a more comprehensive recommendation. So there'll be more coming back to the council on that very soon. And I believe we talked about something for a work session coming up.
That's correct, Mr. Pepe, and I need to work with Mr. Shields to see when we can do it, but my goal would be to have a good work session before the Planning Commission adopts the CIP, so the school council is fully on board with what the City Hall public safety piece is, and the task force members, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Pepe, could brief the council.
Thank you. Anything else? Mrs. Berry?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to inform the council that after our last meeting in December, I attended, I think along with Mr. Snyder, the Council on Government's annual luncheon down in D.C., a very, very well-attended event, and Senator Warner was the keynote speaker. Spoke on a host of issues that are facing the Virginia, both Virginia and municipalities nationally. I thought it was a very thoughtful and very important speech and cautionary tales. I think that many municipalities will have to be wrestling with, certainly in the next several years. The other thing I also wanted to make sure that Council was aware of is that as part of our work on the Government Ops Committee, we check in with the senior staff, the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk on a quarterly basis, and we've done our December, January check-in with Mr. Foster and Mr. Shields, and we're scheduled to be talking with Ms. Bouchow later on in the month. And as always, we hope other council members will weigh in and participate in any manner they'd like to. I think it's a very, very important tool just to make sure that we're current with our senior staff and that they have an opportunity to talk to council in an informal setting about issues and concerns they may have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. Any other comments by council members? Mr. Webb?
Just a brief update on the Affordable Housing Task Force, which has met twice, and I took part in the last meeting that we had. They are well on their way with developing policy that is more realistic in what we can ask for within developments that are potentially on the pipeline of coming in for the city, and also what are some of the ways that we can positively use the affordable housing fund of ways to either expand or maintain some of the existing affordable housing stock that we have in the city, and also look at ways to possibly work with our neighboring jurisdictions to expand affordable housing just outside of the city limits. They are planning to have a public hearing at some point in February, so they'll be in touch with the city manager to possibly talk about some dates that may not, so that we aren't conflicted with other possible meetings in the city. But I think they're well on their way, and the group that is a part of it, I think, is a good group of folks who will come up with some hopefully good policies that will come before the full council in a work session and hopefully pass soon.
Mr. Webb? Any other council members? Mr. Snyder?
Thank you. I want to take a minute and express my appreciation and that of so many people to those involved with the Watch Night celebration. It was very, very well attended. Staff did a great job. The businesses were very open and very hospitable. and the volunteers, led by Barbara Cram, just did a great job. So everyone involved deserves a lot of credit for a wonderful family-oriented event, and one that hopefully was good for a business community, and certainly great for our community in general. And one of the points that we made, there were a couple of us at the dais, and I know Councilmember Pepe was also attended, but Councilmember Webb and former Councilmember Hockenberry. One of the points we made there in our brief statement was that we were very pleased to invite, obviously, our citizens, but especially those outside the city, that they could come into the city and be so warmly received, and that they should consider it their hometown, too. So that's great. I think this is a key role we can play in this region in the future. And I, again, want to thank everybody involved with Watch Night. Second matter I wanted to bring to people's attention is that the Columbia Baptist Church is sponsoring a neighborhood sort of briefing on their potential plans and options on January 21st at 10 a.m., and I'm sure that's probably open to the public as well. Finally, it would appear that our mayor is engaged, and congratulations to him and his fiancee Bernie. They both have contributed a great deal to our city, and heartfelt congratulations to both of them. So, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Just a couple comments I wanted to make. I wanted to, again, thank staff, my fellow council members, and certainly the community for a great year that we had last year. I think we tackled some difficult issues, namely, I think the budget was our certainly our central focus in kind of getting our economic house in order. So I want to just take a moment and really congratulate staff and the citizens of Falls Church and the council as well, and all the work that was done last year. And I look forward to a year of great things this coming year, as we move on to the budget season. And I hope everybody got some time to get some rest and enjoy being with family and friends. And I'm certainly coming back relaxed a little bit after some time off and some opportunities to go diving in Hawaii, and also getting engaged while in Hawaii. So sorry I wasn't here for New Year's, but I was on a desert, or not a desert island, but a tropical island, probably somewhere underwater. It did a little bit. It was nice and dry. Coming back to the snow was very unusual today. So, but again, thank you, council. And Mr. Snyder, thank you for your congratulations, and to council as well. We are on to approval of minutes of previous meetings. We have one set of meetings, December 12th, 2011, before us. Are there any edits to this? Okay, not seeing any. If I can get a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes of December 12, 2011 as submitted.
If I can get a second?
Second.
That's Ms. Berry on the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any objections? Any abstain? That's one abstention. Mr. Webb was absent. The minutes are approved as submitted. Okay. And unless there's anything else, if I can get a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, well, Ms. Berry and Mr. Webb seconding. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you, council.